In Unit 1, we examined how the brain processes language during reading, including phonological processing. We learned that phonology, or the speech sound system, serves as a foundation for all literacy. Now we're ready to translate the importance of phonological awareness into effective instructional practices. After learning about phonemes, phonology, and phonetics, you may wonder, what do my students need to know and be able to do, and by when? And how will I know if my students need help? These questions and others will be addressed throughout Unit 2. English is an alphabetic system organized from speech to print, not print to speech. So understanding speech sounds is a critical foundational skill children must master as they learn to read and spell. If a student is not able to manipulate speech sounds, they cannot represent sounds with a letter or letter pattern to spell them correctly.
Up, cop.
Reading will be problematic too, since they will not be able to look at letters accurately and automatically connect these letters to their corresponding speech sounds.
What is this word?
Therefore, all students need instruction at multiple levels of phonological and phonemic awareness. These phonological skills exist on a continuum. We can use this continuum as the basis for a scope and sequence of instruction for all children.
Say upset. Upset. Test it.
Students who do not respond well to whole group phonological instruction need further practice with small group instruction to master phonological awareness skills. With this in mind, we will review the phonological skills all students need to read and spell. Discuss how assessments such as the Phonological Assessment Screening Tool, or PAST, identify students who are not responding well. And then demonstrate best practices for phonological awareness instruction. Most of you have assessments and instructional activities that carry the labels Phonological Awareness or Phonemic Awareness. Our goal is to refine these practices so that you can identify exactly which activities will benefit struggling students most, even through 3rd grade. Now, hopefully you're gaining an understanding of the importance phonemic awareness has in instruction, and better know why awareness of the smallest units of speech is the basis for all literacy. Words, after all, are made up of sounds.
Point to the letter that you're going to take away to make it sip.
Once students become aware of the alphabetic principle, that the letters they see have correspondence to the sounds they've heard and spoken since infancy, it sets the stage for successful reading.
Good.
However, the alphabetic principle is not as simple as it might seem. Remember that English has 44 phonemes, but only 26 letters. Think about the last activity you completed. Did you have any aha moments where you realized that several sounds in English, such as ow and sh, are not represented by a single letter? This is just one reason why it's so important to provide students with explicit phonics instruction. Some students might easily come to understand that the letters th say the sound th or v rather than saying t, h, or that the sound ow can be represented by the letters OU or OW. However, these understandings don't come naturally to everyone. Besides, even students who appear to naturally learn to read will see their skills improve when they are explicitly taught phonics. Remember, all students, whether struggling or at benchmark, benefit from explicit, systematic phonics instruction.
Children develop phonological awareness before they enter school. Several kinds of phonological tasks predict their ability to read, spell, and write in the critical years from kindergarten through 2nd grade. The earliest phonemic awareness indicators, especially segmenting and blending individual sounds in simple spoken words, are especially helpful. Problems with these activities predict reading problems in kindergarten and 1st grade better than other phonological activities such as rhyming, alliteration, word repetition, or syllable counting. Preschoolers who have appropriate developmental experiences develop early phonological awareness skills, including a simple understanding of rhyme and alliteration. They appreciate these simple sound devices in storybooks and nursery rhymes and learn to repeat them. Children's early phonological awareness includes understanding of syllables as well as rhyme and alliteration. For example, typical 5-year-olds can complete a familiar rhyme, tell which words in a set rhyme, or match words that start with the same sound. They can also segment syllables. These skills facilitate early matching of letters to letter names and letter sounds. Children typically develop basic phonemic awareness in kindergarten and first grade. This includes the ability to segment phonemes and to blend them in single-syllable words that do not include consonant blends. The ability to do this oral task is critical for learning the basic decoding and phonetic spelling skills that correspond to Aries' later alphabetic phase. Screening measures with the highest predictive validity, such as Dibble's Next, usually test these basic phonemic awareness skills. However, after first grade, these skills are not as useful for predicting or explaining children's reading ability. By age 5.5, children are making the transition from phonological awareness to basic phonemic awareness. They can distinguish and remember separate phonemes in a series, and even use colored blocks or tiles to represent separate phonemes. They can blend onset and rhyme in one-syllable words like thumb or queen. They can segment and pronounce the onset in a word. This understanding is not dependent on letters. For example, they can segment and say the onset sh in shoelace. By age 6, children can work with phonemes and larger chunks of sound in slightly more complex ways. For example, they can delete a syllable from a word, including compound words such as cowboy, and then say the syllable or word that remains. Not only can they blend onset and rhyme in a word, they can also begin to blend phonemes. They can segment phonemes in simple one-syllable words that have just 2 to 3 phonemes and no consonant blends, such as sap. By the time children are about 6.5, they can identify and manipulate phonemes in still more complex ways. They can segment sounds in words that have 3 to 4 phonemes and include consonant blends. For example, they might say and tap the sounds in a word like cloud, k, l, ow, d. They can substitute phonemes in simple words with no consonant blends and then say the new word that results. For example, at 6.5, a child can change the j sound in cage to the n sound to form a new word, cane. At this age, children can also isolate and say beginning, middle, and final phonemes from one-syllable words. For example, a child could isolate the final consonant sound in the word rope, p, or the vowel sound in the middle, o. Children who are progressing normally will continue to develop phonemic awareness skills from 2nd through 4th grades, learning to manipulate phonemes in ever more sophisticated ways. As they progress, they can substitute one phoneme for another in longer words, for example, changing feeding to feeling by replacing d with l. They can reverse the order of phonemes in a spoken word, for example, reversing the first and last sounds in pat to form a new word, tap. They can quickly add or delete phonemes in a word. As children achieve advanced phonemic awareness, they can play games like speaking in Pig Latin that require excellent awareness and quick manipulation of phonemes. This fast, automatic mental manipulation supports word recognition skills and the development of a strong sight vocabulary. By age 7, 2nd grade, most children can delete initial or final sounds from words. For instance, saying meat without the initial consonant sound m. They can also substitute sounds in words with 5 to 6 phonemes. For example, changing shrink to shrank or pocket to locket. By age 8, children can typically delete initial sounds from words that begin with blends. For example, they can delete the p sound from prank or the b sound from bleak and say the new words that result, rank and leak. Normally progressing children can perform advanced phonemic manipulations by about age 9. They can delete sounds from the beginning, middle, or end of a word, including words that have blends. For example, they can delete the k sound from the end of fork to say for. By this age, children can also reverse the first and last sounds in a word, such as reversing the first and last sounds in safe to say face. This skill extends to words with consonant blends, like slack or crib.
In Session 1, you learned about the hourglass figure we can use for reference when teaching or assessing phonological awareness and word recognition skills. In this session, we'll look more closely at the top portion, which is focused on phonological awareness skills. Remember that this depicts a typical skill progression only, not a very rigid instructional sequence. Nevertheless, the hourglass figure can help us better understand the progression of the levels of phonemic awareness you learned about in the previous frame. Early phonemic awareness begins right here. Recall that the topmost portion of the hourglass is wide open, representing the very broad phonological understanding that preschool children have. Used to hearing co-articulated streams of speech, children aren't yet ready or aware of the smallest units of speech sounds, the phonemes. However, they can understand larger units of sounds, such as syllables and onset rhymes, at the early level. The largest of these units is the syllable level. We can develop students' awareness of syllables by having them clap the syllables in words and count them. Syllable, for example. Children at the early phonological awareness level are also aware of slightly smaller chunks of sound at the onset and rhyme level. We can enhance students' awareness of onset and rhyme with several types of activities. For example, we could present a set of 3 words, such as like, bike, and path, and have them identify the odd one out, path, which does not rhyme. Or we could have them identify which words do rhyme. We could have children recite or complete familiar rhymes, such as nursery rhymes. Similarly, we could have children work with onset sounds and alliteration. For example, determining whether 2 words, such as hat and hair, start with the same sound. That's the early phonemic awareness level. Activities involving phoneme deletion and substitution also sharpen students' awareness. They occur at the advanced phonemic awareness level. I'll write that right here. So while the basic phonemic awareness level had blending and segmenting, there's an advanced level that asks students to do even more difficult activities. At the advanced phonemic awareness level, the hourglass narrows even still more. At this point, between the ages of 7 and 9, phonemic awareness becomes more sophisticated, as does the instruction we do to develop and strengthen it. This instruction includes activities centered on phoneme deletion, substitution, and reversal. I'll write those under advanced. So deletion, substitution, and lastly we have reversal. The more advanced layers of phonemic awareness. Students progress from being able to delete initial and final phonemes to being able to decide initial phonemes and delete them that include blends, or being able to delete phonemes in any position in the word, beginning, middle, or end. They also become more adept at substituting sounds, doing so with words that have 5 or 6 phonemes, and can do sound chaining activities that require them to change one phoneme out at a time. They learn to reverse the first and the last sounds in phonemes in a word as well. Manipulating phonemes requires acute awareness of the tiniest units of speech sounds. Often in the hourglass, we represent that with the number 1 right here. One phoneme or phonemic awareness is the ability to be able to manipulate an individual sound at both the basic and the advanced levels. Helping children fine-tune this awareness prepares them to move to the bottom part of the hourglass, orthography. We'll be discussing that in a later unit.
Before we get into the how of teaching phonology, let's quickly review why it's important. In 1999, Dr. Louisa Moats wrote her well-known article comparing the teaching of reading to rocket science. Considering all we need to know to teach students to read and spell, this could not be more true. It takes years of thought, study, and practice to grasp the many components that constitute solid instruction for all students. Phonology is one of the most important foundational language skills for this instruction. In Unit 1, we examined images of a good reader's brain at work. Two areas are crucial for processing speech sounds and connecting them with print. The frontal area recognizes individual phonemes. The temporal-parietal area matches phonemes with graphemes. Of course, processing text involves several complex functions. Seidenberg and McClellan's four-part processing model represents the distinct jobs of four networks: the phonological, orthographic, meaning, and context processors. Of these, the phonological processor is the linchpin for reading an alphabet. Without awareness of phonemes and the ability to manipulate them, students struggle to connect sounds to print for automatic word recognition in reading and in spelling. After discussing the four processors and their role in word recognition, we used the hourglass figure to outline the skills necessary to master word reading and spelling. The top portion of the hourglass encompasses varied skills we've outlined in detail in this unit. These phonological skills are also embedded in Aries phases of word reading development. Aries' model depicts how students progress from early phonological awareness to basic and advanced phonemic awareness as they learn to read print. An expert teacher guides students through developing these foundational phonological skills, skills that are a necessary, though not sufficient, component of instruction for all children. This session will outline not only who needs phonological activities, but which skills are most important at which phase of learning. With this in mind, let's get down to work.
Throughout this session, we'll discuss general principles and specific tips to keep in mind when teaching phonological and phonemic awareness activities. Be aware that, regardless of a student's age, instruction that stimulates accurate and efficient phonological processing helps with the kinds of problems described in the case studies. Instruction should include planned, structured activities that follow the outlined scope and sequence, from easier to more complex phonological and phonemic awareness activities. Teachers should also take advantage of any incidental opportunities to help students make connections between spoken and written language throughout the school day. With that in mind, let's talk about some important overarching principles for teaching phonological skills. These principles are also outlined in your letters manual. First, follow the progression of skills listed on this chart. Be aware that some tasks are more difficult than others. Your goal is to guide students to see and differentiate the internal details of a spoken word in increasingly fine detail, so these details become etched in memory. Second, focus students' attention on speech sounds before focusing on letters. Use mirrors and help students become aware of what the mouth is doing to produce each sound. In the following clip, you will see a teacher working with a student to differentiate between the f and the r phonemes. Pay special attention to her use of modeling, use of the mirror, and how she describes the articulation of r to the student.
If this says food, can you make it say rude? Very nice. We said goodbye to, hello to. Good job. Let's check our mirror when we say the sound. There you go. Check out your mirror. There it is. Remember, our tongue's lifting up in the back a little bit when we make the sound.
Now, watch as the teacher guides her student to distinguish between the vowel phonemes I and A. Again, notice her modeling, the use of the mirror, and description of the nuances that differentiate the articulation of these two phonemes.
So now what is this nonsense word? Let's look at here. Tafe. That's you say it. Tight. So let's take a look really quick, Avery. Say A for me. Now say I. Look at your mouth when you say A. You're making a little bit of a smile there when you say A. Check your mirror. There you go. So let's remember, when we're in the middle of our word tafe, we're going to do a little smile. Ready? Let's say it again. Tafe. Excellent.
Teach all the English phonemes, including those vowel and consonant sounds that do not correspond to a single letter. For example, students need to learn the consonant sounds th and v each represented with a digraph. They need to learn how to say vowel sounds like the sound in foot and book. Use a multisensory approach, getting students' hands, eyes, bodies, and mouths engaged in the activities. Watch how this teacher uses a multisensory approach.
Say sun.
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 Let's tap the sounds. S, n, sun. Make sun with your cubes. Ready? S, n, sun. Good. Ready? Let's test just to make sure. Go. S, n, sun. Ready? Cat, bat.
Cat.
Just show me. Awesome. Do those words rhyme?
Yes.
Down. Flip, drip. Let me do it again. Flip, drip. Do they rhyme?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Before we delve into specifics, we have more general principles to discuss. First, know that all this instruction doesn't have to take up much class time. Most students benefit from just 5 to 10 minutes worth of focused daily activities over a period of 12 to 20 weeks. As you can see from the plan here, our goal is to give students frequent, brief instruction and activities for phonological awareness. It's best to use a gradual release I do, we do, you do approach. First, model the activity for students. Then, practice with them. Finally, have them take turns doing the activity while you supervise. Watch how this looks in action.
Okay, last activity. You might use one of each color. You might use two of the same colors. If you hear a sound that is the same in the word, you want to represent that sound with the same color. So, same as how, this is an example. Say I had sip, sip. Are any of these sounds the same?
No.
No. But what if I change sip to sis? What's the last sound in sis?
S.
The sound is s. So I would need to make that the same sound as my beginning sound. Both of these are saying what sound? S. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, ready? First word. Say cop.
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 Let's tap the sounds. K, op, cop. Did you hear any that are the same? No, so let's make cop. Go. K, op, cop. Let's test it just to make sure. Ready, go. K, op, cop. Change cop to pop. What sound will change? Beginning sound.
Begin this one. The
Yep,
first
beginning
one.
sound. Yep. And what sound will replace it? Cop,
First,
pop.
the C.
Let's tap pop. P, op, pop. The p sound. Do we already have that in our other word? Cop? K, op, p. So, pop. Excellent.
If a student makes a mistake, give immediate feedback, correcting the mistake and reviewing any relevant concepts. Watch how these teachers do it.
I'm going to give you guys another word. And the word is sip. Who can think of a word that rhymes with sip? Can you think of one, Trajan? Sip. Pip.
Lip.
Sip, pip, lip, dip.
Kick.
Okay, so dip, kick. Do they sound alike?
No.
How about, I'm going to give you two choices and I want you to decide, okay? So my word's dip, okay? Does the word flip or jack rhyme? Flip, okay? So dip and flip rhyme. Very good. Kip, good job.
Let's tap the sounds in dish. Ready? Put your finger on the first sound, Amar. Ready? Go. D, ish, dish. What's the first sound?
D.
D. What is the last sound?
Ish.
Ooh, d, ish. Let's prove it. Let's start at the beginning and figure out what this last sound is. Ready?
Say straps.
Straps.
Say straps.
Straps.
Now say straps without saying s.
Strap.
So let's look at Miss M.
Trap.
Say straps.
Straps.
Say straps.
Straps.
What's the first sound you hear in straps?
Straps.
The first sound that you hear in straps is s. Say s. Now say straps.
Straps.
So we're going to say straps without saying the first sound s. Ready? Say straps.
Straps.
Now say straps without saying the first sound s.
Traps.
Excellent.
Once students have learned how to pay attention to speech sounds, start using letters to represent those sounds. Doing this reinforces phonemic awareness.
Here's the first word. Thumb on your heart when you're ready. Read this word to me.
Drop.
Good. Let's tap the sounds. Drop. Where's the blend in this word? Connor?
It's D-R.
Love it. Spell away. D-R-O-P. Drop. Ready? Get ready for your next word.
To sum up what we've discussed, phonological awareness instruction should follow the progression outlined in the Levels of Phonological Awareness chart. Activities focus on sounds first, with detailed discussion of how these sounds feel and look in the mouth, adding letters once students are ready. All English phonemes should be taught. An I do, we do, you do approach that engages multiple senses is most effective, and it's best to give students brief, focused instruction very frequently, about 5 to 10 minutes daily. Corrective feedback should be immediate and direct.